approximately 1 inch. Okay, so I have the 1 inch thick slab of clay right off the bag, and if you haven't used this before, this is a slab roller. It works a little bit faster, however it makes it a little bit thicker clay. So I'm going to roll it through here first, and I'm going to thin it out a little bit later. So this is to get, I need to get a large enough piece of clay to cover this, which is my mold for my plate. And as you can see, it's not quite wide enough to drape over top of this, so I'm going to stretch it out a little bit before I roll it through here, and then I'm going to stretch it out as I roll it through. Right, so when you're using the slab roller, these are two pieces of canvas that have to go through here, and this makes like a sandwich. So this goes in the middle and it goes like that. This is too thick, so you need to make it about a ½ an inch thick. So you're going to squash it down, just squashing it with the palm of your hand, as if you're giving somebody CPR compressions. And I'm also pushing it this way to try and widen the clay a little bit. So as you can see, it's getting longer this way, and it's also getting thinner. So I'm trying to get it down to about a ½ an inch. This only makes the clay longer. So if I put it like this, it'd make a long strip. If I put it like this, it's going to make the strip a little bit wider in this way. So I want to just widen it as wide as I think I need it, and then I'm going to put it into the roller. So again, like a sandwich, put it up in here, right next to the rollers. Pull the canvas over. I'm going to hold it, so I'm pulling the clay right up to the roller, and then you turn this and you guide it through, and then I'm going to pull it back the other way. Okay, and then I'll open it up, and there's the slab. I don't think it's quite big enough to cover this, but I'm going to thin it out a little bit more anyway, and we're going to do that in the next segment. Okay, so I brought the roller and 2 sticks out because I want to make this a little bit thinner than the slab roller makes it, thin like we normally do when we make slabs. I'm not sure it's going to be big enough to go over top of this mold, so I brought out a smaller mold just in case. So, just like usual, I'm going to take the slab, put it between the 2 sticks, and I'm just going to roll it out until it won't roll anymore. I'm going to flip it one time, and roll it again. Maybe I'll flip it one more. I'm going to take just a little bit, roll it just a little bit sideways, just to maybe stretch it out a little bit that way. Got to be careful if you're not using the sticks. You don't want to over roll this. Okay. I think it's pretty good. The cool thing about making the plates is you get to work with wet clay. This is big enough to go over top of this. Because this is how it's going to be. This is the inside of the plate. So this will be the bottom of the plate, and then this will be the next layer up, and then this will be the top layer down here as it folds over. And I'll show you how it works. So you take the mold, and you're going to put it in the center of your board. Notice how careful I'm being with my slab. I want to keep it as clean as I can. Now I'm going to pick it up so it bends and it's in the middle. I want to try and center this. So I'm looking at it from both angles. I'm trying to center it evenly and then drape it over this mold. And you can already start to see. And as I get here, I'm kind of pushing the slab in towards the center to try and get this bend in there. And the same thing here. I'm going to push it in a little bit like that. Lift it up and push it in a little bit like that. And that's about as much as I want to do with it. Notice I'm trying not to get any fingerprints on it. Now we're going to walk over here to a different section of the quad. Just going to try and find a flat area and holding it up about 18 inches or a foot, I'm just going to drop it straight down. And then you can see how it starts to, the gravity starts to push the clay around the mold. And maybe if you drop it too many times, it will literally pop through in the corners. I'm thinking it's pretty close. I'm going to drop it just one more time, not even as high, just to give it a little bit more. And I'm going to stop with that. So now this is ready to become leather hard. I cannot take that mold out until it's leather hard. So if you do this early in the morning, you can come back at nutrition, or you can come back at lunchtime, and at lunchtime it's probably going to be perfect. If you do it during third period, you're going to have to come back after school and take the mold out so that you can wrap it up, because you can't take the mold out until it's leather hard. So this is very much a timing thing. You got to work quickly in the morning and then try and get it out. If you're in the afternoon, you might be able to use the sun to dry it out a little bit and have it all done in one period. But in the mornings, we have no sun, so you got to usually come back. Okay, and then the next step is when you got it leather hard, you can trim the edges, and I'll show you that later. Okay, so I dropped the board. I dropped the board with the slab over the mold so that it ended up looking like this, and it's been sitting now in the sun for about 2 hours. And the reason it sits in the sun for 2 hours, or it has to dry leather hard, is so that I can move it around without bending the slab anymore. So if you'll notice, I'm going to slide this whole thing off. It holds its shape. I can turn it over, and as it dries, this is the other part of it. You can't let it sit too long on here because it starts to grab onto the slab or onto the mold. So I have to work it. There we go. It came out pretty easily. So this is pretty much perfect the way you want it to be. Now I'm going to put it back on its upside down so that I can trim the edge the way I want the edge to look. I can go with just a straight edge if I wanted to, or I can do a curved edge. It took me a while, but I finally decided to trace and cut non-linear, non-straight lines, and then I pull the pieces off from the edge, and that displays the shape of my plate. From the pieces of clay that I have left over, I'm going to cut little pieces to become feet. Okay, so I cut out 4 pieces of clay from my leftover pieces to get 4 feet to put onto the bottom. I'm going to smooth them up, maybe give some texture in the middle, and attach them. Okay, the plates are finished. They just need to dry and then be fired. This is the plate from this mold, signed and dated. And this is the plate from this mold, also signed and dated, with feet on the bottom, both of them.